Imagine waking up in the morning. You make tea. You check on your children. You step outside. And then, the sky fills with the sound of aircraft. One strike. Then another. Then another. On a single Tuesday, over 120 airstrikes hit Lebanon in one day. Not in a movie. Not in a history book. This happened. Recently. And the world barely flinched. This is the story of a ceasefire that was supposed to end a war, and why it is now on the edge of total collapse. To understand what is happening right now, we need to go back a few months. In February of this year, Israel launched strikes against Tehran. Those strikes killed Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Think about that for a moment. The supreme leader of Iran, killed. That single event changed everything in the Middle East overnight. 2 days later, Hezbollah, the powerful militant movement based in Lebanon and backed by Iran, fired rockets into northern Israel. And just like that, a new front of the war opened up. Israel responded with full force, launching a large-scale military offensive into southern Lebanon. Homes destroyed, villages emptied, over 1 million people in Lebanon forced to flee, at least 3,213 people killed, more than 9,700 wounded. Then in April, a ceasefire was brokered by the United States. A temporary pause, a chance to breathe. But that ceasefire is now barely alive. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stood up and made something very clear. His military was escalating. Over 120 airstrikes in a single day, targeting 100 sites across southern Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley. Storage facilities, command centers, observation posts. And in the town of Burj al-Shamali, one strike killed at least 10 people. Women, children. In the village of Mashghara, 12 people killed. Several from the same family. These are not numbers on a screen. These were people who had names, families, homes, and they are gone. So why is Israel escalating now? Even as ceasefire talks are ongoing, the answer is complicated. But part of it is very human. Netanyahu is fighting for his political survival. He faces a tough re-election battle. And in Israel, voices are growing louder. Commentators are writing in newspapers calling for, quote, sustained around-the-clock attack waves using hundreds of aircraft simultaneously. The pressure on Netanyahu is not to slow down. It is to go harder, and so he is. Israel has established what it calls a security strip, a buffer zone several kilometers inside Lebanon. Residents have been told, do not return to your villages. Israeli troops are already there, destroying homes, building a barrier between Israel's northern communities and Hezbollah's reach. Whether you see this as self-defense or occupation depends entirely on which side of the border you are standing on. And Hezbollah is not standing still. They have a new weapon, fiber-optic drones. Unlike regular drones that communicate through radio signals, which can be jammed, these drones use physical fiber-optic cables. They cannot be electronically intercepted. Israel's military has struggled to stop them. These drones have been hitting Israeli forces and villages in northern Israel. And since the April ceasefire, 10 Israeli soldiers have been killed. 6 of them by Hezbollah's explosive drones alone. On Wednesday, air raid sirens activated in Shlomi in western Galilee. Residents of northern Israel are being told, do not gather in large groups. And here is where the bigger picture becomes clear. This war in Lebanon is not just about Lebanon. Iran, which funds and supports Hezbollah, has sent a very direct message to Washington. If you want a nuclear deal with us, you need to stop Israel's offensive in Lebanon first. That is the condition. Every airstrike that Israel launches in Lebanon is also a strike against the chances of a U.S.-Iran nuclear agreement. Washington, Tehran, Tel Aviv, Beirut, all connected, all watching each other, all calculating their next move. Back in Beirut, in the busy Hamra district, a man named Tony Aboud said something that stayed with me. By just saying a few words on TV, Netanyahu causes everyone to panic and flee their homes. I don't know what's going to happen, or how long we can live like this. That is the reality of this war for millions of ordinary people, not strategy, not politics, not elections, just fear. Every single day, over 1 million people in Lebanon have been displaced. 1 million people who had homes, who had routines, who had lives, now living in uncertainty, and yet the bombs keep falling. Netanyahu said this week, and I quote, "We will smite them hip and thigh. Those are the words of a leader who is not thinking about stopping anytime soon. That a ceasefire is supposed to be a pause, a moment where both sides step back and ask, is there another way? But right now, that pause is being filled with 120 airstrikes a day, families killed in their homes, soldiers dying by drones that cannot be stopped, a nuclear deal hanging by a thread, and a prime minister under pressure to go harder, not softer. The ceasefire is not just collapsing. It was never really given a chance. And until the world decides this matters enough to stop it, the bombs will keep falling.